Today is the 14th of February. It's Friday morning, and I've been reading through this book I wrote a number of years ago, actually back in 2017, Phillips versus discrimination in the state of Missouri for refusing to license homosexual foster parents and place children with homosexuals. I'm ready for chapter 8 today. It's entitled The ACLJ Brings Hope. Knowing that the trying of your faith worketh patience. What is the American Center for Law and Justice? Well, I found out the organization is on the cutting edge of legal reinforcement for Christians. The ACLJ takes on hundreds of cases a year. Founded by Pat Robertson and Regent University, the mission is to protect the civil rights of Christians and Christian organizations. Now, just so you know, since all this has happened and my understanding of correct theology, I no longer endorse, I've never endorsed Pat Robertson, okay? But God did use the LCLJ in my case. Jay has argued cases. Jay Sekulow, Chief Counsel, has argued cases numerous times before the Supreme Court successfully. I had heard Christian leaders talk about subjects of discrimination against Christians prior to my own situation happening. I would listen to programs like Point of View, Concerned Women for America, Phyllis Schlafly Broadcasting, ACLJ, Focus on the Family, American Family Radio, and Richard Land and for Faith and Family. I believe the good Lord allowed me to be exposed to many issues that were later to affect me personally. So these programs were sort of my education to prepare me for a long journey that my family and I would have to face. Prior to my filing a lawsuit against the state of Missouri, I had received a booklet from ACLJ entitled Christian Rights in the Workplace. This little booklet was invaluable to me and served as a continued reference throughout my ordeal. If the ACLJ had not intervened for me, I would probably not be writing this book, and I would not have been able to continue my lawsuit. Social workers are low paid and generally don't have a huge bank account. I was one of those typical social workers. The ACLJ took my case without requiring money up front. The legal cost of doing the case for ACLJ was staggering, but ACLJ takes cases based on the principle rather than what is economically feasible. I had almost given up hope for being able to be represented properly as a Christian who had been maligned and discriminated against, but when ACLJ sent Francis Mannion to Kansas City, I realized that there was hope for my family and all Christians who have stood up for their religious beliefs. Many Christian families are going through unbelievable persecution here in the United States because of their faith. I often wonder how many Christians are experiencing challenges similar to those that I face, but don't have a clue as to where to start in the midst of their battle. Chapter 9. I've entitled this The 24-Hour Deposition of 692 pages. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. Ephesians 6:16. I was about to undergo questioning by the Attorney General's office in the form of my deposition for 24 hours. This has been categorized as the longest deposition of an individual in the state of Missouri. It took 63 pages to get to the reason we were even doing this. I'm going to give you an example of some of the questions and harassment I faced in this deposition. Question: what are the strong religious convictions that you're referring to? And my answer: the strong religious convictions as found in Leviticus 18:22, as well as in the first chapter of Romans, as it relates to the practices of homosexuality. In Leviticus 18:22, it states that man is not to lie with mankind as does with womankind. It's abomination. In the book of Romans, it talks about that it is a natural act, men with men and women with women. Question, is that Romans 1? Answer, yes. Do you have a verse for that? Answer, I can certainly look that up if you'd like me to do that. Question, if you want to take a second and look that up, that would be fine. Answer, that would be Romans 1:27, the men leaving the natural use of the women, burned in their lust one toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving themselves recompense of their error which was meat. Question, and you understand that as referring to homosexual activity? Answer, referring to men with men in Leviticus 18:22. I'll go ahead since we're going there and read that as well. Mr. Mannion, you open the door, it's a big book. Answer, actually it's several scriptures that refer to that. Leviticus 18:22, thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind, it's an abomination. That's basically my particular faith. The regulative principle of my faith resides in the Holy Bible, and so that's what I was basing my strong conviction, religious conviction upon. Question, okay, you mentioned your faith. What is that? Answer, I'm a Christian faith. Question, other than your seminary training, what type of religious training have you had? Answer, I was raised in what I would call a strong Christian background from grade school through high school. I attended a Christian elementary school, and then I attended a Christian high school. Question, I'm going to move on to some of the other religious convictions that you indicate you have strong belief that extramarital affairs and or affairs outside of wedlock are repugnant and unacceptable. What do you base that on? Answer, the same belief that I base homosexuality on, which is the Bible. There are numerous passages in the Old and New Testament, starting with the commandments, thou shalt not commit adultery. In the New Testament, numerous passages as well, reinforcing one woman and one man in a relationship, marriage. Question, referring to another belief that you indicated, common or consistent use of profane vulgar language is contrary to acceptable religious standards. Would those be your religious standards? Answer, well, it would include my religious standards. It wouldn't exclude other people that have the same standards that I have. Question, and I think the last specific belief that you indicated in your complaint is that abortion is the equivalent of murder. What do you base that belief on? Answer, I base that belief on going back to the creation order and the conception as to when conception begins in the life of the child is in the womb, and the child is an individual through the inception of the 9 months of the mother carrying the child. Question, okay, and Exhibit 7, last paragraph, May 23rd conference, the last two sentences, she asked me if I had problems in licensing those in heterosexual relationships that were not married, that is, that are paramours in the home. When you say paramours, what is your definition of that? Those who are living outside of wedlock together. Question, so single individuals that are living together. Answer, in a sexual relationship. Would that be both male and female relationships and male-male? Answer, okay, absolutely. Question, okay, then the next sentence, which continues on to the second page, says, I indicated that my religious beliefs were solidly against persons taking foster children in their homes who are living in fornication, infidelity, and having sexual relationships outside of marriage. What is your definition of these terms? Answer, definition of fornication is persons who are married and having relations outside of marriage. Question, is fornication something that only happens in marriage relationships? Answer, no, it can happen in marriage or outside of marriage. Persons who are married having sexual relations other than with their spouse would be infidelity. Question, you placed a quantifier on accepting beliefs or opinions. In your opinion, would a practicing homosexual be entitled to those beliefs? Answer, I need to elaborate on that. I have absolutely nothing against a homosexual person. I personally have a challenge with the homosexual behavior. My challenge in the whole issue was that I was told that I had to license and endorse homosexual foster parents. Question, Just out of curiosity, what does your religion teach about forgiveness? Mr. Mannion, I'm going to object. What is that? What is this, the Spanish Inquisition? Mr. Mannion, on the record, note my strong objection. I've tolerated for about 45 minutes this theological inquisition, which personally to me is completely irrelevant to the issues on the case. Question, do you remember what the question was, Mr. Phillips? Could you repeat it for me? What does your religion teach about forgiveness? Love your enemies, those that despitefully use you and persecute you and say all manner of evil against you falsely. To love those people, and that's my firm belief, and I believe that is firm distinction between tolerance and the issue of unconditional love. And I think that a person has, as our Constitution states, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, and those rights are to have faith in our own convictions, and that we have not to be interposed upon and told what we are to believe. And I guess that is the distinction as it relates to mind control. By the way, I have changed my position on the I do not believe the Constitution is correct in saying that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. I don't believe that man has rights. I believe that God has all the rights. Now, for God's elect, we have been blessed with all spiritual blessings in heavenly places. So, I have changed on some of my positions. Question, what was the subject matter that the supervisor inserted rather than name approached you about? Answer, I was approached by a co-worker who was very distraught over the fact that she was told that she had to go out and license a homosexual foster home without getting the proper background checks and so on. Question, so the issue that the supervisor approached you about was to license the homosexual foster parents. Answer, that was one of the issues. I just wanted to give you a small sampling of the grueling deposition that I went through to prove my case against the state of Missouri. The good Lord was with me through the complete 24 hours of questioning. I had many moments, many times when I was praying for God to guide me, give me strength, and answer the questions in a way that would be pleasing to Him. Of course, in terms of preparing our case, we also had to depose many witnesses. I never dreamed that this case would take on the significance that it did as we got close to trial. The homosexual supervisor was deposed, and many of my co-workers as well as others in the agency testified. I saw the hand of God protect and defend me throughout the entire process. I want to take this opportunity publicly, thank Him for His protection and guidance at a time in my life when I found He was my dearest friend. Well, I think I'm going to stop there for today. We'll continue in chapter 10 tomorrow, which is the account of the federal trial. May the good Lord be with you today, and may we continually conclude that our only hope and joy is in Christ Jesus alone. God bless.